Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where I show you how to paint a miniature from start to finish. This is going to be part 16 of my series, Feathering. Now, most of you may be wondering, what exactly is feathering? Well, feathering is obviously a painting technique because it's in the series of videos, but feathering is a blending technique. It is a very, very handy blending technique where you apply multiple thin layers to an area, which are basically referred to as feathers, and it's great for transitions. Some cons of feathering are it takes a very long time, depending on the model, and can be very repetitive. So today we will be showing feathering on a large flat surface. The large scything talon of a Tyrannid warrior that has already been painted black. And today we're going to go through the whole spectrum of reds of Games Workshop: Mephiston Red, Evil Sun Scarlet, and Wild Rider Red, and then we're going to go into some orange, as you can see there. And an optional step, which I won't show, is if you really want to tie them together, feel free to use a glaze, such as Bloodletter in this case, because we will be using reds. So, we're going to go to our palette. I'm going to add just a little bit of Mephiston Red. So first, of course, you got to shake it up. Give it a good shake to make sure it's good, and all I do is just take a little bit of paint from the top of the paint pot and put it in my palette, since it's good to use a palette in these cases. And as you see, I'm not adding very much paint, just a little bit from my paintbrush, and we're going to thin it down. For this particular paint, I'm going to use basically a 1-to-1 ratio of paint thinner to paint. This obviously depends on how old your paint is and what company your paint is. For example, if you're using Reaper paints, the paints are much thinner than Games Workshop, so you won't have to thin it down as much. The key when feathering is to use very thin layers because they tend to be excellent for creating easy transitions, or thin down paints. Also, a thing to remember is that these paints will dry slightly darker than when you put them on, so don't be worried if you put on a layer or a feather and it comes out looking a little dark or light. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at the very edge. We want the gradient to be the brightest at the tip and the darkest at the very top. So we're going to start at the tip where we want it to be the brightest, and essentially what we're going to do is put the pigments on the tip and then use our brush to just slowly drag the paint and pigments towards the edge that we want to be darker. And that's all we're doing. And basically this layer is defined as a feather, and we will be applying multiple very thin feathers throughout this tutorial. So as you can see, I'm going almost to the base of the black with this first feather. And I'm going to repeat this process on the top of it. So as you can see, I'm just putting those pigments. I'm not even refilling my brush this time. The key is use very thin layers and not a lot of paint on your brush. And then I'm going to repeat this process on the other side. So as you can see, just starting there and just slowly pulling the paint to where I want it to be. And what is amazing about this process is, as you pull the paint, less and less paint will be on the brush as you go forth, so it'll create a nice transition from the brightest top point to be the tip to the darkest point being the top. And once you've applied a feather, let it dry completely. You don't want to crack the previous paint layer. So let it dry completely. As you can see here, it's dried much darker than than when it was wet. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply yet another feather of that same Mephiston Red to the surface. But as you can see, this time I'm not going to go as far up the model as I did the previous step. And this is what's going to create that really nice transition. And you can see with each layer, the color gets truer and truer to the red as it covers up the black. So as I did before, I'm going to apply this thinner layer of feathering to the top and then to the other side. This particular video will be very repetitive as I'm just applying feathers repeatedly. And you can see I'm just pulling it up and not as far as I did the previous step. Obviously, it's up to you how many feathers you want to apply to an area of a miniature. This is a very large flat area, so I will be applying a lot of feathers just to create a really nice transition, but it's up to you. Obviously, the more feathers you put down, the better the transition, but it's up to you. And look at that, it's looking great. And just for fun, I'll apply one more layer of the Mephiston Red, so that's a really nice red color. And this one I'm only going to go about halfway up. I'm just pulling that paint, and as you can see, I'm not going anywhere near as far as up as I did before. and this will just create a really nice gradient of colors. And remember, since each layer you're applying less and less paint to the surface, you need less and less paint to begin with before thinning down. So as you can see now, it's dried and there's a great transition already happening. The brightest red is at the bottom and the darkest red is towards the tip when you're approaching the black. So now I'm going to take the next layer color, Evil Sun Scarlet, and I'm going to take even less of it, obviously, just a little bit onto my brush, put it down on the palette. And then once again, I'm going to thin it down quite heavily, about 1-to-1 mix of paint thinner to, and for instance, using airbrush thinner, in case you're wondering. You can use water if you want, providing that you're not blending with a metallic. I do not recommend using water to thin down metallic paints. And once again, just bring it to that same consistency. As you can see, it's going to be quite thin. And this is a bit brighter of a red. So once again, we're going to start at the tip and just work our way up the scything talon. So once again, start by placing on the tip and then just pulling the paint to where you want it to go. At this point, it's going to go only about halfway up. And as I said, it looks very bright right now, but it will dry considerably darker, so don't have to worry about the brightness of the first step. And once again, start at the tip, pull it towards up, and it's just going to be a lot of this repeating, so let it dry completely. Now, if you are batch painting or painting a model like the Tyranid Warrior, it'll be easier to do this process, because once again, I'm just doing it again with the same color, because there'll be a lot of surfaces, and by the time you're done painting the last surface, this paint does tend to dry pretty quickly, so the first surface will almost be dry. You can just repeat this process. Just make sure that the surface is completely dry before proceeding to the next step. And so I'm going to do this a little quicker. Next, I'm going to take the Evil Sun Scarlet, which is almost an orange, actually. It's very, very bright red. It's almost an orange, as you can see. Do the same thing, even less paint this time. Onto the palette. Take the thinner. Thin it down. I'm just using drops of thinner, as I said, not very much for this particular case. Make sure it's very nicely mixed. And then continue to do what you want. And essentially, and by no means am I claiming I am a gold demon painter, but this technique is actually frequently used when painting miniatures for showcases. They just use many, many, many thin layers and feather them on a little bit at a time to create very nice, unbelievably clean transitions between one color and the next. And then I'm repeating this process with the Wild Rider Red, going over and over, and then I'm just doing the same thing with the orange. And I'm going to create a very nice just transition of colors. And as you can see, now that it's completely dried, here is what the scything talon looks like. It looks very nice. It's a great transition from one step to the next, and a very nice transition from black to red to orange, done in relatively little time. Of course, this step can, as I said, be very repetitive and take a little bit of time, but it looks great. And that is how you feather a surface of a miniature. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video. Leave comments in the comment section down below what you would like to see next. And stay tuned for part 17 of my series of Miniature Painting 101. And if you really like this video, go check out The Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel. Not only get to see at least the next 10 Miniature Painting 101s, you also get to see start to finish painting tutorials, battle reports, as well as just some great wargaming content. So until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting everyone.